It's quite nice up here on cloud nine, Berth. I'm still there after the weekend, after an unbelievable occasion, not just game, but occasion at Twickenham. Where are you, cloud sort of nine, or drifting down somewhat?
Yeah, no, I think definitely drifting down, but I've not actually sat down for a minute and actually, processed the whole thing. It's been such a whirlwind, hasn't it, this week, and the momentum on the back of it. Yeah, it was mega, such a great weekend. And yeah, I think the recognition of all the hard work that went into getting it there over all that time, I suspect everybody's taken a bit of a rest. But yeah, not being able to really process all of it yet.
Yeah, there's a lot of beat shots on social media from various races, aren't they? And rightly so. The girls have got themselves off away for a few days break before the league kicks back in, because England claimed second successive Grand Slam with a 38-33 win over France at Twickenham in front of nearly 59,000 people. Wales beat Italy 36-10 over in Parma. Scotland were victorious 36-10 over Ireland. That meant that Wales were third in the championship. Ireland bottom of the pile with a points difference of minus 167 points. And we'll go into WXV3, which we'll tell you about a little bit later as well. There's some news there. Record crowds, obviously, for England, Scotland, Wales, Italy and France. It just keeps taking steps up. But I just wonder, Berth, whether you thought this step's actually a little bit bigger than we're anticipating this Six Nations.
In
a good way. It's a really positive.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, we obviously saw good momentum last year from the Six Nations. We saw the great crowds that were turning out. Obviously, there's been more professionalism go into the game. Then we had the World Cup. So I don't know if it was a surprise. I think probably the Twickenham one is the big surprise, the numbers and the figures that they got to. Originally started at trying to get to 30,000. Then they saw what New Zealand did at the World Cup and wanted to beat that. And then they completely exceeded that. So I think elements definitely have exceeded kind of those expectations and taken more than one step.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Just the whole occasion from arriving there. We did the live show on Friday night, which was absolutely great fun. Lily Corson was an absolute hoot. And then Her Majesty arrived, didn't she? Sarah Hunter. But yeah, just everyone who came along to that, great fun. Thank you so much. And a massive thank you to Stewie Green and his Cabbage Patch team. Really lovely, accommodating bunch as ever.
He had a busy weekend, didn't he?
boy, didn't he? I was just going to say, it was rammed afterwards with Red Roses royalty everywhere, and there's various parties, and they had a big deal in the morning and what have you, and loads of faces there. And Twickenham was an absolute wash, and the traffic sign saying crowd disruption and all road disruption because of the crowd. It was just a phenomenal weekend, and they've had similar up in Scotland. Great crowds in Wales as well. It has been, I would say, women's rugby's arrived, but it's a really good step, but possibly a little bit higher. We've sort of just tripped over slightly, but what amazing Six Nations. We're going to do a Six Nations team of the tournament a little bit later on, but first we're going to catch up with all the news, and there's plenty of it here on the Women's Rugby Pod. We have to start, Berth, with the news. Yes, they were recording Friday morning. The Red Roses coaching team has been announced. John Mitchell, the former England men's assistant coach, New Zealander, has also had spells at Ireland, at Sale, Wasps here in England, Chiefs back at home, the All Blacks, Waikato, Western Force in Australia, Lions in South Africa, USA, and the Bulls, and is currently Japan's defence coach, which has its own logistical problems, which we'll get into. Lewis Deacon stays on as force coach, will take up interim head coach while John Mitchell is away with Japan at the World Cup. Lou Meadows is promoted from the under-20s head coach role to the attack coach. Easy enough for me to say, the attack coach. Our very own Sarah Hunter has become the transition coach for both senior teams and pathway program. Charlie Hayter becoming full-time head of women's performance. Your initial thoughts, Rachel Burford?
Yeah, well, I think it was a big shock to everybody, wasn't it? That it came out a bit earlier than what the RFU probably expected it to. John Mitchell, obviously, I've heard like really good stuff around his like technical and tactical ability. And, the amount of environments he's been in, you'd like to think that he's going to pick all the best things from that and then bring it into the Red Rose environment. I think it's disappointing, but, partly, understandable. Anybody of kind of that high caliber is going to have or already be in a contract. So being able to get access to them is going to probably be challenging, especially when he's involved in the men's pinnacle in the World Cup. Guess it shows, he wants to fulfill that role first before stepping into another one. But it does obviously put the Red Roses in not a great position. Obviously a lot of people talked about post Rugby World Cup, there should have been a new coach, get that campaign under their belt, new coach in. They didn't do that. And then, but there's now potential that he's not also going to be part of the build up to WXV. So it means he's probably really starting to embed his post for the next Six Nations. And that kind of leaves 3 tournaments before a World Cup. So yeah, I think it's challenging with the timing, but he's somebody completely different, completely new. He doesn't know any of the players and I'm speaking from a point of, when I've been coached, they've known who you are or you've had some connection with them beforehand. Whereas this is completely unknown. So I think that breeds a bit of excitement and could, take the Red Roses on a different direction.
Yeah, I think there'd be plenty of sharp intakes of breath. From being around the game, like you say, John Mitchell, reputation is a very hard edge coach. Strongly believes in what he believes and doesn't falter for that. And that's positive and a negative in some instances. Not being available till Japan get themselves out of a World Cup. They haven't got the hardest of pools, so you may well be quarterfinal. Looking at last World Cup, certainly a hugely improved team, as you say. Those weekends of the WXV, which we'll talk about in a minute, that's very difficult. I saw him at Twickenham for the Grand Slam game, 3 rows in front, and I literally didn't put 2 and 2 together, just because I just didn't think of him in that frame at all. It is from left field, and I think for me the key appointment is Sarah Hunter. It's a big old ask, but I think she's there as a sort of culture minister for the Red Roses, which somebody may have mentioned before might be a useful role for her to have.
Yeah, I think it is a big role, and she lied to us. Let's just put that on record. When we asked if she had any plans, she said no. It definitely didn't happen the day after. But yeah, no, look, I think obviously she's got so much playing experience and involvement across the squad, and I think with his absence as well over the next, what is it? I don't even know how many months it is, 7-8 months, that she's going to be in there trying to kind of bring people together. Transition coach, I think, is an interesting one where they're going to start looking at maybe a model where they have some younger players that will be often with the senior squad or the future of Red Roses and embedding them and developing them. And I think she'll be a great role for that.
Another thought that crossed my mind is potentially, I don't know how long the contract is, and the other bonkers thing is, I understand possibly there's some complications with Japan, but we're not going to get to speak to him until he's finished with Japan. It was a media team, not even a sort of a quick Zoom. Delighted to be here, all the rest of it, which I find just absolutely bonkers, absolutely bonkers. Very, very strange indeed. So yeah, there's a few press peeps trying to press that cause. Whether he's just a stopgap, get us to the World Cup, get a hard edge, because he does have a back catalogue of places he's been, and that sort of can say things, can't it? Certainly as a player, if you move on every season, every other season, it kind of possibly some reservations about choosing people like that, and whether, yeah, it's just a short-term thing, get us to World Cup, get a hard edge to go and win a home World Cup, and then we'll see where we are, whether Lou Meadows or Sunter or another female then comes in after that. Just a thought.
Yeah, look, ultimately England want to win the next World Cup, and they've got to find a way.
They have to
do that. Yeah,
they
and I
to.
think, in my mind, I feel like, John Mitchell's probably very similar to Simon Middleton. So where are they kind of expecting that gap in order to win that World Cup final against whoever? Are they relying on Sarah Hunter and Lou Meadows to bring that difference of change? I don't know John Mitchell, and I don't know his coaching style, and I don't know him personally, so I could be like totally wrong on my assumption there. But yeah, I think they ultimately have seen something that they think, right, this is what will help us get over that over the edge, and that's the route that they've gone for.
I mean, we all know about England's dominance up front. The attack coach was going to be a key appointment in my mind, anyway. Is that a right choice?
Look, again, I don't know Lou's background. I know that she's done some work. I think it was at Scottish, and she's obviously been involved in the under-20s. I think it's a massive role, because that's been an area that England have been really, really criticised over. It's a strong group of characters, that back line, and how she manages that and how she integrates into it will be really, really interesting, and how she may evolve the way that the England are attacking. And I don't just mean like backline play, I mean like general attacking play across the game. Like, what's going to be their structure? Is it going to be similar to what we've already seen, or is there going to be some new nuances within that? But yeah, I think it's a massive role. And she's pretty inexperienced, like young in her coaching years. So yeah, it will be fascinating to see how she develops and how she goes.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Huge congratulations to her. That pathway of coaches. Yeah, that's certainly that box ticked. All really, really fascinating stuff. And it just keeps rolling this week. Gallagher piled in, haven't they? The global insurance company has come on board as an official partner for women's rugby and Rugby World Cup 2025. They'll also be an official partner of the WXV this year and next year. In addition, the insurers will also be the founding partner of a new women's high performance academy, a leadership and a development program set up by World Rugby. The deal is described as a 3-year, multi-million-pound commitment. That's great news. And then WXV, the details, which we've all been waiting for patiently, have come out. New Zealand will host WXV1 on the weekends of 21st, 28th of October and the 4th of November. And of course, there's a 6-team league with England, France, and Wales, and the top 3 nations from the Pacific 4. Cape Town in South Africa will host WXV2, which of course includes Scotland. Nice to have some details on that berth. But immediately you go straight to that's clashing with the Men's World Cup.
Yeah, and I think, some of the frustrations for everybody is, waiting on the announcement and all the information. But, I personally know there's been a lot of challenges for them to be able to get to that point. Yeah, and it's well recognized.
Can you go into that?
No.
Go on.
No. And no. So basically, World Rugby do recognise that there is a clash, and that's why there's a lot of work going on to really analyse and look at the global calendar for the women, and making sure that does a clash might work, it might not work. So I think we've got to recognise that we need to establish what the global calendar should look like for the women's game. I think the WXV was always going to be reviewed annually to make sure that it's doing what the purpose of it is, which is to create those high level of competitive competition to enhance performance ahead of World Cups. And yeah, I'm mega excited for it. I think all the players will be. It's a new competition. who doesn't want to go to Cape Town or South Africa? Level 3 is yet to be confirmed, but yeah, I think it's a hugely exciting opportunity. Yes, like any normal competition, new competition, there's going to be some teething problems and some flaws to work out, but yeah, can't wait for November. And I think they'll be really clever around kickoff schedules to make sure that everybody who's in France watching the World Cup and have an appetite to watch the women's game can also do so. So yeah, looking forward to it.
I very much hope so. Being out in France or some of that. And I also think in the men's game, Six Nations fixtures are announced 12 months before. This is a really new game, and it's still a really new game, despite the events that took him the weekend. It's still a really new game. And actually, will rugby just want to just take a moment just to get it right, or put the right things they feel in place? Then let's do that. I kind of like the fluid aspect of it. The fact, as you say, review each year. We're getting that right. No, let's try this. And I think we all need to just be a little bit, empathetic that this is new, and we're able to. It's malleable, but because it's so new, and actually, in that instance, therefore, you hope we do get it right, or majority of it right. It's never going to please everyone all of the time, but no, look, it's the bottom line. It's a global calendar for women's international rugby, which the aim is. This is directly from Dom Rumbles, isn't it? This is a new international competition aimed at increasing the competitive reach and impact of elite women's rugby. And hopefully, and everything's pointing that it's going to do exactly what it says on the tin. Yeah,
no, I agree. I think, it's a big amount of investment as well. Like the focus towards the WXV. We can't continue just to see England and France and New Zealand get better and better and everybody else not. And let's remember also how you get into WXV. We obviously had all of the excitement around the weekend because the final rounds of your regionals really matter, because then that qualifies you into WXV, which then that's where your qualifications for Rugby World Cup happen. So you talk about impact generally around the world. That means unions have to invest in cycles now. They can't just go, right, we're going to focus on the Six Nations and have a really good campaign and then we'll switch off till next year. Actually, it's got to be all year round, which is perfect and ultimate for the players to have that kind of understanding of what they're going to be doing, what the investments are, where they're putting the money into, when contracts are coming in. Unions can actually have a proper plan, as opposed to just always those some nations always organising their own fixtures or autumn internationals or summer tours. Now, actually, we've got 2 fixed windows moving forward, which is so important for the game.
Yeah, a framework and some fluidity within that, almost like the best coaches. That little analogy. Anyway, WXV coming at you later in the year. Let's catch up with the rest of the news.
I'm Shani Williams, and you're listening to the Women's Rugby Pod.
On Sunday, the Junior Cup competitions were decided at Twickenham. In the Junior Cup, Dean's Crusaders beat Liverpool St Helens women 12-24. And in the intermediate level, Cheltenham ladies' second team overcame Hackney ladies 36-22. And in the championship final, not what the scriptwriters wanted, with Leicester as one of the new teams for next season's Premier 15s, Cheltenham defended their title, winning comprehensively 27-17.
Awesome day for those players to play at Twickers. Long day for you in the comms box. But I suspect joyous players wherever you looked.
Yeah, it was an incredible day. There was a really good crowd and it kind of built throughout the day. And I just want to note the conversion kick-in at that level was top notch. So yeah. Anyway, just put that in there. Also,
Rich the boot has been working with Cheltenham, isn't he? They work hard on that stuff.
And in the cup final here in England, Exeter retained their title, beating Saracens 29-19 in front of more than 3,000 fans at Sandy Park. Clee Maloney with 2 tries and deserved Player of the Match award. Congratulations to Exeter again.
Yeah, congratulations to Clee Maloney, but not picked on form. Speaking of Ireland, IRFU press statement was released on Tuesday, noting that the union and head coach Greg McWilliams are in ongoing conversations following reports he was to stand down from the role. Smoke and mirrors, I'm not sure. Now claims to Kevin Potts from the IRFU chief exec that the union is far more inclusive than is portrayed by some. I don't know. I know Greg is. I do. He's not going to. Yeah, he's going to see something through. And I just wonder whether he just sort of sort stuff out. Otherwise, I'm off. And I don't know. I hope it's that. Anyway, the story will rumble on, sadly, for the players. How about the international news?
Yes, well, it's been announced this week that world and Olympic champion Ruby Tui will be playing in the US this summer in the Premier Rugby Sevens. It's a multi-tournament competition which men's and women's teams will compete for one trophy. More to come on that one in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we're going to have Ian Apper on the pod in a couple of weeks' time to tell us all about that. I know you're probably got some views on it as well, Berth. Down the other side of the world, Super W. These are fabulous games. I watched the highlights of these games. They're absolutely sensational. Australia will be a force to be reckoned with at the WXV. The semi-finals were at the weekend at the Concord Oval in Sydney. Queensland booked their place in the final, beating the Brumbies 23-20 in a thrilling match. Helena Young, Fijian sprint champion, scored a couple of tries. She is wheels, certainly a name to remember. But it was New Zealand fly half Karis Dillinger who kicked the winning penalty on the 89th minute. They will meet Fijiana Drua, who beat New South Wales Waratahs in another close game, 17-20. Drua centre Vani Vainga dotted down twice. So Queensland Reds and reigning champions Fiji Drua will battle it out for the Super W title on Saturday, May 6th at the Queensland Country Bank Stadium and televised on Stan Sport.
Yeah, it's great to see another competition just kicking on.
Properly kicking on.
Yeah.
So
a lot of people talking about how the Australian selection is going to be really tough, and it's all based around this competition and the advances that it's taken.
Yeah, it's sad it comes down to money, but they got themselves back in the game, haven't they? And I suspect World Rugby behind that with the various World Cups there and what have you, and Lions and what have you, and they're investing in the women's games, as are other countries.
Yes, and it was great to see Sweden back in action this weekend, playing a non-European opposition for the first time since 2010 at the World Cup.
That's bonkers.
It sounds mad when you say it, like 2010. But they played a higher ranked team, Hong Kong, on a European tour, and they had to withstand a brilliant comeback from Tamara Taylor's team, who were down at halftime. But it was a late try that sealed it 22-17. So huge congratulations to Tamara Taylor and her team.
Following on from the first leg last week, the Challenger Series was completed in South Africa in the World of Sevens. And the hosts won both legs, confirming their place in the World Series 9 years after being relegated. The women Bok will again be a core team from next season. It was a fabulous final with Belgium again taking the silver. Who knew? You've got 5 semi-pro players, you invest in it, look what happens. Funny that.
Well, let's stay in South Africa because the Bulls have made history by contracting 35 women for the Bulls Daisies over the next 2 seasons. This is the first team to be offered professional contracts in South Africa. This squad will compete in the domestic interprovincial league. The women's premier division kicks off this weekend with the Golden Lions versus the Eastern Province Queens, Western Province hosting the Sharks, and the defending champions Border Ladies start their defence against the Bulls Daisies.
As we said, Berth, it's a very, very busy time. Regular listeners will know that we do a team of the Six Nations with some pretty highbrow people normally. We do it in conjunction with Scrum Queens. Hoping to catch up with Ali Donnelly and Sarah Orchard, who was a BBC commentator for it as well, just to make sure that we've got everything right. We're going to do our selection now as a WRP team. Berth. It's tough. It's tough. Where do you want to start? In the back line, forwards? Let's go 1 to 15, shall we?
Yeah.
Hit me. Who's your loose head?
Ireland, Linda Dugan.
Yeah. I mean, you're not the only person to get it wrong all tournament. Gwenny P.
Good shout. Good shout.
Very consistent. I mean, I thought Hannah Bottom, incredible impact, but just hasn't played enough to warrant the selection. But I think alongside, Kelsey Jones and Cecilia Tuipulotu, that has been a formidable pack. And when their lineup has been shaky, certainly their scrum hasn't.
Yeah, no, I do hear you. I just feel like, Linda was so pivotal for good go forward for their team. And I think that's how I kind of look at this sometimes, is what else is around them, what challenges are they facing, but yet they're still standing out. But Gwenny P is a really good one. I think, she has been a standout player for Wales this Six Nations, which we haven't seen before. Linda's name is often, thrown around. I'm happy to. I mean, I don't know if we're debating or we're
debate it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not moving from Gwenny P personally.
Okay, it's Gwenny P then. No debate.
No, I hear you. I just think that there's been more impact from her and as a unit. I'm just looking at her stats. Try against France, couple against Scotland, 3 tries. Yeah, that front row is outstanding against Scotland. Pretty much won them the game.
Yeah, so front row. We're talking about one player. Yeah, can't base the front row success on an individual.
On the fact that she scored 3 tries.
Okay, Gwenny P then.
Gwenny P it is, or to give her full title, Gwenhillian Perth.
There it is.
There it is.
Why can't you just say Perth?
Because
why have you got a Perth?
It's like Derby. It's not Dowie, it's Derby.
Okay, hooker.
Oh, it's tough, isn't it?
I think it was. Well, I think there was a lot of good hookers throughout the Six Nations. I think Sochat was great. I think Amy Cocaine was good. But for me, Lana Skeldon, I think she was just next level. Just her work rate, consistently playing like 80 minutes. Her ability around the park, her defense. For me, every game, she was just an absolute workhorse.
Zero complaints from me at all. Couldn't agree more. I think Kelsey Jones, her game's gone up another level. Her ball carrying's been really impressive this Six Nations. As you say, honourable mentions for Sosha. But yeah, Lana Skeldon. And she's, how many tournaments has she been in the reckoning and talking about her? But no, she's been absolutely superb this Six Nations. So Lana Skeldon gets the nod at 2. Tight head. Dun, dun, dun.
I think there's 2 obvious ones, isn't there?
Byrne and Tuipulotu.
Yeah. I have both of them down, and I think Cecilia Tuipulotu's had an excellent Six Nations. I think she's been brilliant. But I think Sarah Byrne just edges it because of her consistency. We also didn't see the best of Cecilia during the England game. And so, recognising that Sarah Byrne probably came out on top in that game, and in a bigger fixture, we didn't see the best of Tuipulotu. Sarah Byrne gets my nod. I just think, she's just got so good recently in this last year. She's been, last year she had a bit of injury coming back in and out, didn't quite get the form that we'd seen before. And then she's just run riot this Six Nations, like absolutely run riot. She does all the tough nitty gritty stuff, but then she also does the fancy work in the outside channels.
And you can see defenders going, oh God,
really? Yeah.
Like you're hovering out on the wing thinking, I'm just taking a breather. And then you've got she's just everything about her is just power, isn't it? She looks powerful. Her gait is
Explosive,
really
yeah.
powerful. Just and you're like, oh god, really? I agree. Consistently through the tournament, Sarah Byrne for me has been the best tie head. You know, Cecilia, great start to the tournament, didn't she? That try against Ireland, couple against Scotland. But yeah, sort of tailed off towards the end of the Six Nations.
Yeah.
She's what, 19?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, you know, there's plenty more to come from her, but certainly
She's
admirable.
only recently moved to prop as well, didn't she?
Yeah.
So
Well, the geniuses at on the fantasy app still have her as a back
Yeah.
rower.
I think you've seen, like, obviously Sarah Byrne wasn't always a front row either. And I'm not a scrum. I don't know much about scrums, but I know it takes a lot out of them. So before, when Sarah Byrne kind of went into that slot, you didn't see her often around the park because she was learning that position and scrums were taking so much out of her. Now she's kind of come out to that other side of it where she can manage the scrums, but still be able to work rate and the capacity to then also do damage around the park. And I think we saw snapshots of that from Cecilia. And I think, you know, in a year's time, we'll get the exact same from her as well.
I think that's outstanding analysis.
Oh, thank you. One and only time.
Not that I would, you know, I'm anyone to say whether you're right or wrong, but yeah, in my very
I'll
humble
take it.
opinion, I think you're absolutely right, because that's the bread and butter. You don't want to get that wrong, so the concentration is there. But yeah, it's almost kind of like second nature for her. Let's get into the second row then, after a front row of Gwenny P. Skeldon and Sarah Byrne.
Quite tough. Oh, you've got it now down. Who are your two then?
I've got either ors on lots of them, but not on the second rows.
Oh, interesting. Go on then.
I've got Georgia Evans and Zoe Allcroft.
Yeah. So I have both of those.
Who else?
I've Georgia Evans highlighted and Zoe Allcroft highlighted. But I think for me, I think Sarah Beckett made such an impact. Even in 2 games, she made such an impact. So honourable mention to her. And I think Jade Conkle, again, played 2 games there, made a massive, massive impact. And because the back row's quite tight,
yeah,
I feel like Jade needs to be in there. But I also think Georgia Evans was just an absolute workhorse. Like, just the amount of carries and work she got through. She's just got a big engine on it, which you always want from your second row. Zoe Allcroft, definitely just so consistent, so good. But yeah, it's just Jade Conkle only played obviously 2 games. So on that note, I'd probably say Georgia Evans and Zoe Allcroft.
Yeah, little moments of absolute class from Zoe Allcroft. She is a very, very complete athlete. I just Georgia Evans just huge. I mean, the meterage, 96 meters against Scotland. Carries just consistently 18, 14, 21 throughout the competition. Got a try in there against France as well. Very notable, very clever with the little hair bow. But yeah, not a natural position. Normally a 6, but like Jade Conkle, as you say, Beckett can agree with more. Just to like to see the smiles on her faces and her ever adoring family. God, they're a tight bunch, aren't they? Absolutely gorgeous to see their smiles at Twickenham on Saturday. So honourable mentions for Beck and Conkle, but we go Allcroft Evans, do we?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go then. Into the contentious part. 6, 7, 8. I'll give you the unit.
Okay. I'll just give you who I think, and then there might be some. So I would say Escudero at 8, Molly Packer at 7. And then I'm between Tunisi and Calendar for 6. I think Sadia has been great, but these two have really stood out as well.
Oh.
I also number 8, Ireland number 8. I should know this. We played at Quins together, but I can't pronounce her name.
Nickerverd.
There you go. Yeah, I think she was really, really good in the last probably 3 rounds.
Yeah, really came of age, didn't she?
Yeah, and considering the size of her, she,
And the team go backwards constantly
yeah,
to excel as she did. Jada played some rugby at 8.
yeah, she was good.
She's always good. Does that count against her though? Menage, very, very effective at 8. Obviously, started on the bench in the second game. Who are non-negotiables?
Packer.
Packer. Right.
That's
Packer's
her
in at
7.
7 then.
Yeah.
Okay. Kabir Tunasi, I thought Bethan Lewis again, just quietly really effective. Do we put Calendar 6?
I just think Calendar, her defensive effort is unreal. The workload she gets through, the turnover she gets at critical times, and she just seems like to never run out of energy. She's just constantly on it. Tunisi, I think she had a good Six Nations, some really big hits, got good go forward for Italy. But yeah, I guess for me, it's between, I don't know. It's tough. Because Sadia did have a great Six Nations as well. Who have you got?
Yeah, really good. I think she did have a good Six Nations, Sada Kabir. I'm inclined to put Alex Calendar in. Try against Italy, didn't she? One against Ireland. And she just constant work rate, as you say. And ball in hand as well. I think it's really, that area of her game has really improved. It really, really has. And it carried the ball a huge amount against Italy. Yeah, and against England as well. And she's the forefront of that niggly, narky,
yeah,
not necessarily, probably slightly smaller physically, but just heart and fight and all the rest of it. She's a sort of pinnacle, and that's good about the fighting Wales at the moment. So my vote would go for her at 6.
Okay, and who's your 8?
We've mentioned Menage, Honourable Franco. We've mentioned. I'm with you. I think Tourny. Shame she doesn't get but over Calendar or Kabir. No, not really. Escudero would be my 8. She missed out last Six Nations through injury. So it's a bit of a surprise at the World Cup. And I did a few of France's games. She was brilliant.
Yeah.
6, 8. Great athlete. Seems to have an unbelievable engine. But Nick Averna's, grew through the tournament, but quiet start, but consistency. Escudero for me. You happy with that? You happy with that back row then? Calendar, Packer, Escudero.
100%.
Lovely halfbacks.
I would say Pauline Baudon for France. Honourable mention to Lucy Packer. I think just the tempo, her quality and accuracy of pass, the speed that she can play at was what unlocked England. But for me, Pauline just edges it because I think she has it in her to just turn a game on its head. She can create something out of nowhere. Absolute little genius. So Pauline gets the nod at 9. And then Holly Aitchison for me at 10. Jessie Tremelier gets an honourable mention, but I think in terms of consistency, in terms of bringing this new England team or bringing the England team to life, I think she's really unlocked something different within England. And I think defensively, she had a couple of testing moments, which she stepped up to. So I think, Holly Aitchison gets the nod for me. Jessie gets a mention as well, Tremelier, because we didn't see a lot of her at 10, but when we did, she was masterclass. And I think had she played the entire competition at 10, a lot of minutes under her belts, then she could be edging her way in there.
Oh, but that performance for Jessie Tremelier, And she's absolutely bloody
She was great.
world class. It was against Wales, wasn't it? She was
Yeah.
just utterly imperious. I think head to head in that final game, Jessie possibly win. Only less mistakes from Jessie than Holly.
She got yellow carded. It's a big mistake.
Is it going to come down to a yellow card? You lose her head sort of midway through that first half. For the sheer fact that she got a yellow card, Holly Aitken takes the 50-50 then, does she? Borderline, I have no complaints whatsoever. Let's go into the centres.
Yeah. I think 12, there's only 2 contenders, Tatiana Hurd and Gabrielle Vernier. But Vernier gets the nod for me. I just think both sides of the ball, she was so good. Her offload ability, meters main, defenders beaten. She was just absolute class throughout the whole game. Throughout the whole Six Nations. I reckon she maybe had 2 errors this entire Six Nations, which is saying something. So, yeah, Tats, I think, has had a great tournament, really giving England, I don't know what it is, but like just something through the middle, really big ball carrier, but really good offloading. And she's, I would say her game's developing now, knowing when to pass and carry. And we saw a bit of that over this Six Nations. So yeah, no doubt we'll be talking about her for a very long time, but Gabrielle Vernier for me.
I agree with all of that. Love chatting to Tatiana's mum. She's a hoot.
Yeah. Catching her on the way out.
Yeah, Hannah Jones is going to get a mention for me as well. Just, you never get less than a 7.5, 8 from her. And yeah, her combination, Karen Lake, showing that Karen got injured. But yeah, no, Emma wore some bright little bits, but got injured again. Here's the question then. Could Vernier, because I suspect it's probably more likely she could drift out. Could she drift out to 13?
No.
Check. Okay.
No. I think every
Vernier
year
at 12 then.
Yeah, Vernier at 12. And I think every year we always have this debate about 13. And Skaz always gets the nod. But every year in our conversations is Sillery. And again, she's been excellent for Italy. Her work rate, her ability to break lines, her defensive effort has been great. And then also her ability off the kicking tee. So for me, that like 2 other mentions, I think Ménager, I think we've seen the best of her in that 13 jersey. And also I think Lange Tuima had a really solid tournament, just the nuts and bolts for that England team. But for me, it's Vernier and Sillery in the centres department.
Okay, yeah, I agree with you with that. Lange needed to get a foothold back in this squad, and I think she did that with just, as you say, really, really tight nuts and bolts performances. But Sillery, yeah, I don't disagree. Yeah, decent with the boot, wasn't she? Carries well. Virtually played every single minute of this Six Nations as well. Okay, Vernier and Sillery is our centre partnership. Back 3 then. Who's non-negotiable?
Abby Dow.
Okay.
She's probably like, my
the best in the world right now.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Where do you play her though? That depends
Wing.
on the wing.
Yeah, it's her best position.
And this is a podcast, so you're listening, but the stern look that Rachel Burr was just giving, best position is on the wing.
Yeah, we're not debating that. Yeah, no, I think she's a wonderful fullback, but I think
Happy times on the wing
herself. Right, Kate. Fullback, I thought Lauren Delaney needs a mention. I thought she played well for Ireland. But for me, it's Chloe Rowley. I think the spark of excitement that she can bring is just so good.
Yeah, agreed. Wonderfully gifted player. Just going to throw it. Dinka.
She's a winger, not fullback.
Yeah, but this is my whole conversation. I've got Dinka and Jens has to have a mention. Try scoring little machine. So I was inclined to put those two on the wings and down at fullback.
Ooh.
But now I've just had the deaths there. Yeah, I feel like I'm on the Death Star or something.
But I think, like, again, this is where I look at this and I think, you know, with what Chloe Rowley gets in a game, has time on ball, she always beats defenders, always goes forward. She's scored in most of the games. I think she's just phenomenal. And I think she has to be in this team.
That's as strong a case as you're going to get. What do you got? Three tries in there: Ireland, Wales, and one against England as well. In terms of meterage, yeah, huge amount of meters made. 156 against England. That's phenomenal. Over 120 against Italy. Over 100 against Wales and Ireland as well. Okay. Chloe Rowley at fullback. Who's the other wing then?
Well, I've got, how do you pronounce it, Lorenz?
More of a Y, Jens.
Lorenz.
Jens.
I've got her down because I think she grew throughout tournament. She was consistent. And I love Dinka and I'm excited about the future of her. But we only saw that really come into effect in a couple of games. We actually spoke about it last year, didn't we? And we was excited about it because she's coming on at 12. Cool, we haven't even mentioned Rigoni. But yeah, I think future, I'm excited for her, but I'm not sure she's our team of the year just yet.
Really? So I'm strongly on her side rather than Mel Jens.
Really? Well, you
she only played 3 games.
Chloe.
She only played 3 games, Jens. A couple of tries against Wales and one against Scotland.
Those are worldy. Anyway, I've forced you into Chloe Rowley, so I'm happy to take Dinka to be on the wing.
Check. Lovely. There is our team of the Six Nations then, or certainly birth tonight. Gwynelia Pearce from Wales at Loosehead, Lana Skeldon and Sarah Byrne, Scotland and England. George Evans from Wales and Zoe Allcroft, Red Rose in the second row. Alex Cullen, another Welsh. At 6, Marnie Packer at 7, Escuro at 8. Border and Aitchison are your halfbacks. Dow, Dinka, and Rolly. Your back 3, Vernier and Sillery in the midfield.
I'm Jill Burns, and you're listening to the wonderful Women's Rugby Pod.
Finished up with some shout-outs then, Berth. How good is this, Jodie Onsley? So I don't know why my voice went really high there, but it's just a lot of people who listen to this probably won't remember the Gladiators. YouTube it. It was brilliant.
Gladiators.
Yeah. Contenders ready. Gladiators ready. 3. She's going on as Fury. How cool is that?
I mean, the whole story's so cool. Like, her dad was a gladiator. There's pictures of her in the crowd with her mum holding up. It's just like such a wholesome story. And Jodie, if you haven't had a look, go and look on her Instagram because she's put up some videos of her practicing the rings and stuff with her dad. So it's so good for her. I'm literally buzzing at the fact that she's going to be a gladiator, which I loved watching growing up on a Saturday night while my dad was still in the rugby club, drinking and chatting after a rugby game. I was glued to the TV watching Gladiators, so I'm mega excited for it.
Yeah, and could not happen to a nicer person. She is absolute gold, is Jodie. So yeah, we'll be cheering you on, Fury.
Yep, and we say goodbye to a few legends within the game. Carol Thomas retired, so did Jessie Tremblay, and also Sarah Barrettin, all leaving the game, but I'm sure we'll see them crop up.
Yeah, thank you for all you've done for the game. Just really, what a talented player, Carol Thomas. Going to concentrate on motherhood. Sarah Barrettin, not quite sure. She said she was gone after the World Cup. She's back for this Six Nations, so who quite knows? But anyway, yeah. Well done, and big up to you three as well. And shout out as well to Josie Plant from Perranporth RFC. Beautiful spot in the world. Super proud after she was selected for England under 18s. If you don't already, do subscribe, hit 5 stars. Big thank you once again to everyone who came to the live pod Friday night. It does encourage us to go and do some more of those, Berth, because it's great fun and there's fabulous interaction with the crowd. So do keep an eye on potentially some more of those coming around. Thanks to Vicky and Tom in the background. And that's it, Berth, for another week.
Until next time.
Stay safe.
Goodbye.
Be kind.
Be happy.
Bye then.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I love Scotch.
See you soon. Bye. You're going to get the last word.